today's sharing will be to also look into two things. There will be two things that we want to look into today. Now, before we proceed, once again, to remind you, it has been quite some time since we last speak of, we last talk about the so-called Bazi. So just to refresh your memory on how do we establish or determine the strength of the day master, always to look into the month branch for the season to establish whether it is rooted, penetrating chi, supporting chi, whether it sits on resource, that will be also useful, and whether there are any other supporting elements to it. So once we are able to determine the strength of the day master, then we are able to proceed with other readings that we have here as well. Okay, so since we are on the month of the monkey, that means we are on the month of the monkey, and of course this year is the year of the tiger, and so we want to look into the tiger and the monkey clash. And this clash, of course, will be where every year when we celebrate Chinese New Year, when we read the natal chart for every year, it will, of course, be at the tiger. You'll be at the tiger. So therefore, we always look into the lunar calendar. The beginning of Chinese New Year will be in the month of tiger. And therefore, by the time we come into the month of the seven ghosts, I think recently Dato' Joy Yap also in his seminar talks about the same thing as talk about what I'm repeating here as well, that the month ghosts, the seven ghosts is of course also symbolizes between the tiger and the monkey clash. And therefore here we have the tiger and the monkey clash. And this clash is of course a clash between metal, where monkey will be the metal, the keng metal, clashing against the jia wood. And so metal versus wood is also symbolizes by accident. And so in a way, one can say that if you have wood in your chart, if you have tiger in your chart, or jia wood, there is a risk that it is clashing in. Therefore, the arrival of the monkey month is the arrival of clashing in. And if you have keng metal in your chart, and then it may symbolize you clashing out. So in a way that you hit on people. On to the other end, we also see that the monkey combines with the snake. Sure. And there's a combination that produces water. And also we find that later that the tiger hums to the snake. Therefore here we have a tripartite relationship whereby there's a hum, there's a combination, and there's a clash. And when read together, these three combines together forms a very potent, very potent kind of an energy that is highly destructive. And therefore, when these three things are together, we normally consider that there is some so-called destructive element in play. So in one, we may also consider at certain time this to be considered to be an ungrateful punishment. This punishment is usually one that is has commonly affected traffic accidents, auto or plane. Why do we find plane? Because of the fire element. That means inside the tiger there is a ping, fire. There's a ping fire, and therefore indicating that that things are air travel related or sky related in a way. And so with the tiger, snake, and monkey, traffic accidents may tend to occur. Therefore, usually people should avoid traveling or to do anything important on those particular days, especially when there's a monkey, snake, and tiger in the natal charts. So since this year is the year of the tiger, and now we are entering into the month of the monkey, therefore 2 out of 3 are in place. And so the one thing to look for will then be snake. So we have to look for when will the snake day be. So anyone with a calendar that is able to straight away able to see that for this particular month when we have the tiger and the monkey, so when will the snake day fall upon us. When will it be? In fact, actually, tomorrow, tomorrow, 8th of August, is actually a 癸巳. That means tomorrow itself will be this day that we have the tiger, we have the monkey, and we have the snake. So therefore, tomorrow, 8 will then be the snake. And after 8, of course, naturally, if you then take 12 more days from there, will then be on Saturday, 20th. So Saturday, which is next week, will also be another snake day combination as well. And likewise, on the 1st of September coming up as well. Okay, so these are the 3 days where we have the 3 together. Now, what have I done is that I went into the internet, I downloaded some of the history of airplane crashes, and I tracked one down. You can also validate or verify this yourself. On the 22nd of May 2010 is where we do have that 12 years ago, so 12 years ago, 2010, we do have that year of the tiger, tiger. Then, of course, in May, which is the snake month, and then, of course, on the day of the monkey. So therefore, we have these 3 together combined, and so there was a plane crash which have resulted in 169 people who died. Then, of course, we do have another date which is coming out also on 2010, which is the tiger month. Also, we find that there is a snake together with also a monkey hour. As a monkey hour, as we track the time, that is 7:45 p.m. Therefore, this will be also near to the monkey hour as well. That happens to be on a 癸巳 day. And tomorrow itself is also water snake. Now, water snake, as we know, snake is fire. 癸巳 basically is a clashing day as well, indicating a very clashing energy that we actually would encounter or would see as well. And then, of course, we also have yet another monkey, which is 1988, 24 years ago, where we have the year of the tiger to again on the month of the snake and on the day of the monkey, which is Renchen, another Renchen. We'll find that this combination also resulted in an airplane crash or disaster day itself. Now, of course, it is not going to run on a clockwork that every time these 3 things falls into place, there will definitely be an air crash. That is not how we normally read, of course, but we do read that the energy for such disaster tends to be increasingly or present, to find that such is the coincidence as well. Another one that we have on the yin position, we also find that in this frame, it will be on the 9th of May 2010. Again, we have these 3 comes into place. So this is a little bit of my research that I've done, where I went to the internet, I downloaded the days where we find plane crashes. Not all of them, of course. The MAS plane did not conform to this, but sometimes when things are man-made rather than natural disaster like that, it might fall into a different type of reading that one may want to consider as well. All right. Okay, so let it be known that when we do see tiger, snake, and monkey on the chart, this represents a kind of an ungrateful punishment, but these are all events that are happening as well. Then again, we do see monkey and snake have a combination destructive day. Then again, this would be another one. I'm not too sure what is the time that it has, to which, of course, the tiger may be possibly the tiger as it is. Right, so these are some of the past events that we have, looking into the 3 of them. So once again, what are the 3 that we have? We have the tiger, 2, the monkey, and then, of course, we have the snake, as it is. Right, now this we will now open up. So that is the first chapter for the sharing for today. That means when we have these 3 things combined together, they represent a very destructive energy. All right, but as we look into this here, let's also consider that the next type of destructive element that we have in the Apache chart will refer to your 90 degrees. Huh? So we're going to look into a 90-degree element. 90 degrees. Huh? So as we move along to every 90 degrees, we also find that there is a destructive element that resulted in somewhat similar to a clash. Now, I'm sure all of you would know that a clash, what is a clash? A clash is when?
Direct.
A clash is direct. Huh? Therefore, all of us we have gone through clashes and we know that a clash is direct. Huh? So a clash is a direct force that is also very painful, so you can see when it is direct, it will represent something that crashes in or out, and usually that kind of force is also violent and difficult. But today we'll look into the 90-degree force. So, sometimes car accidents, when you drive along the road, you can also find that an accident is where something hit you by the junction. So this kind of accident, how about that? So a clash is the kind of a heads-on accident. A clash is a head-on accident, while a destruction is a blind-sided kind of destruction. So usually this blind-sided kind of reaction, it revolves more of a building up. It's more building up rather than, and blindsided, rather than heads-on, which is faster, furious, and kind of an energy. So the kind of, at the end of the day, you may say negative is negative lah. But what kind of negative? How do we read the negative side? And then how can we basically try to mitigate that? Okay, so as you look into the destruction that we have, then of course it is also destruction here is mutual. Let's try to appreciate the word that we have. The word is mutual. Mutual interference. While a clash is somewhat more like an enemy, like a attacker versus a defender. And while here mutual interference will have their clashes hidden. So the hidden branches will have their clashes, but on front we find that it interferes with one another, it struggles with one another, and therefore here, this kind of reading normally involves heedlessness. It involves being a struggle. One normally finds that to be the reading as well. Okay, so here we have a few clashes. Now the relationship or the groupings that I have, number one is your 90 degree between the north and the west. So therefore that's between the rat and the rooster. The rat and the rooster. And the other element which we have, which is the south and the east. The south and the east, which is the rabbit and the horse. And so these two are peach blossoms. So they are also peach blossom, so-called destructive force. So let's put it this way. In your Apache chart, it is desirable to see only one peach blossom. Only one. Because the moment you see more than one, the other one is either a clash or a destruction. Therefore, that's why peach blossom star, we want to see only one. And then this is a peach blossom destructive. So that's what we may want to see it. Alright, then of course we have your tiger and your pig. And then of course we have what we mentioned just now, the monkey and the snake. Now the monkey and the snake is combination, destruction, and when the tiger comes, the three punishment. Alright? Therefore, it builds up to a very complicated relationship because there are three things in one. You can read the combination, you can read the destruction, you can also read the punishment. Therefore, this would be when the monkey and the snake comes in as well. And then, of course, we have the graveyards. Your dog and the goat, and then the dragon and the ox. And again, when you see graveyard, the graveyard stars, which are the dog, the goat, the dragon, and the ox. Again, you would like to see only one in the natal chart. And the moment you see more than one, it will either be a clash, a punishment, or a destruction. So usually that would be it. And normally, graveyard clashes releases energy. It releases the energy, but even though it is the weakest of all the three. And so we're going to go through one by one to see how we're going to reinterpret the reading of this chart, yeah, as it is. Come, so first and foremost, let's see how we can read it. Again, when we read it, is it in the natal chart? Of course, if it is in the natal chart, we then read the destruction as part of the person's personality, the person's psychological profile, the person's character. And then we can try to appreciate how these have an impact or an effect to the person's experiences moving forward. And so first and foremost, as you go through the chart, here, take a look into the natal chart. Can you see any destruction or any destructive element?
There's two sets, the rat and the rooster, the dog and the goat.
Bingo, correct. So therefore,
Yeah.
you are spot on. This will be number one. We can see that there's a rat and destructive force, the rat and the rooster. So therefore, rat and rooster. And not just that, it is side by side. It is side by side. The moment it sits side by side on the chart, the destructive force is very strong. The destructive force is very strong. So that's one we need to appreciate. One is very strong. All right. And of course, there is another one, which will then be between the goat and the dog. And so here, this is also yet another destructive element. And so basically, this day is a very inauspicious day. They're having two sets of destructive elements all together. So this person is going to experience a very challenging, very conflicted life within the person. All right. So therefore, this will be how we can begin to read. There are two sets of destructions, and the branches are side by side, so the effects will be very strong. If we do find that they are situated one pillar apart or two pillar apart, then obviously the effects will be weaker. Still there is a reading of destructive element, but it will be weak. Right? Therefore, that's where we, number one, look into the chart. Now, apart from there, remember, we often, of course, starts with the strength of the day master. The season is September. The season is rooster. So the season is metal. And the day master is water. And therefore, rooster, metal produces the rain water, day master. Therefore, this rain master is strong on the season. However, the person is not rooted. Therefore, there's no rooting. And the person sits on a 7K. And so as a result, this indicate that the day master overall is not actually very strong. It's not actually very strong because it is not rooted. And when it comes to destructive forces, being unrooted is going to spell the person being more affected. The person will be far more affected than it normally should be or is. Therefore, that's where we want to also read this. That therefore, we do find that it's not going to be positive if that happens in the case as well. Okay, so as we move along, we'll also find what are the other elements in mind. So what does destruction basically means? What does it actually, how do we read? How do we read it? Two things. Two things. Number one, um, generally, the word po in that means destruction is one that is being forced upon you, one that is being pushed to you. There's a sense of persecution, a sense of oppression, a sense of being pushed to a corner. And what is being pushed to the corner? What is being forced upon you? Therefore, this is also where we need to establish whether or not that destructive is from the growth stars. There are four growth stars, as we know. Yin is the growth for wood. The pig is the growth for water. Then, of course, we have the snake growth for fire and
Yeah.
metal, as it is. All right. Therefore, whether it is on the growth stars, whether it is the destructive force on the growth, whether it is the destructive on the peach blossom, or whether it's a graveyard. Now, usually, a destruction is destruction. There will be blunt-sided, but normally the weakest of these three will be on the growth. Will be on a growth. The reason why it will be weak on the growth is because on any one season, the element, because growth element is only at the beginning, only at the infant stage. Therefore, the chi is not a very strong one, not a very strong chi. So as a result, it hasn't blossomed yet, and so sometimes the destructive force can be better managed. The most powerful destructive force here will be the peach blossom. And so when we read a peach blossom destruction, that will be quite very damaging, especially when we find peach blossom 2 or even 3 or more than that, as it is. Now, graveyard destruction, as we find, is punishing, that is earth, that is more slowly working, but the effects may be more hidden. Therefore, it will also be that as well. Okay, so let's take a look into what do we mean when we try to map out destruction. So we might want to consider when destructions will happen. So we want to see when destruction will happen. So let's try to see what we can do with this reading. If let's say if I give you a chart, so let us just for today's purpose, what we will do, of course, is that we will try to look at a chart, and then we'll see, okay, how do we map out what are the destructive forces. Okay, now, so if I give you a chart on the screen here, based on what we have just shared, see very quickly you can come up with name the destructive animal. So this person here is born in the year of the horse. So what is the branch that destruct, they have a destruction against the horse? Remember?
The rabbit.
The rabbit.
Horse
Okay.
and rabbit.
Very good. Horse and rabbit. And this is a peach blossom. It's a peach blossom. All right. Horse and rabbit. Okay. What is the one with a dog?
The dog will be the goat.
The goat. And this will be a graveyard. This is a graveyard clash. And this is the dragon.
Dragon ox, also
Ox.
graveyard.
Also graveyard. Okay. Right. So we wouldn't know what is it. So here we'll see that there will be the destructive force will be the rabbit, the goat, and the ox into the clash as well. Now there is also another research that I was doing. Now as I think I mentioned this before that no, once again, I like to validate things. I don't like to just accept rules without testing it. So one of the projects that I like to do, of course, is on death. Not because I'm so fascinated with death, it's because death is a very, it's a fact lah. So when people die, it is a fact that they die on this particular date, and therefore to look into how it can validate the charts as well. And therefore there'll be two types. So a person dies. A person dies when all the elements have been clashed away or destructed away. Therefore, either a direct clash or blindsided also tend to destroy and nullify, because destruction basically means that these two destroy each other. They destroy each other. The two of them weaken and they break the element away. So something along the line. Therefore, this is also one of those reading that when a rabbit, the goat, and the ox arrives, the clashing and the element arrive, and they lock and unlock all the elements. Therefore, that will also be the danger zone that one should look out as well. Usually, people remember the clashes easily or stronger than they remember the destructive force. Okay, but let's move along and to see how. So when we see when this, so now what's going to happen, of course, is we have two things. Number one is whether or not there is destructive element in the chart, whether the chart itself has destructive element. That is called the static destruction. So far here don't have. So far here we have is the clash. Oh, sorry. So okay, there was a question. Okay. Okay. When it comes to death, sorry. Let me just repeat. When it comes to death, a person dies. A person dies when all elements, on the chart are clashed away or destroyed. And sometimes combined away. Okay. So a person dies. A person dies when all the elements in the person's natal chart, both the heaven and the earth, have been clashed away, destroyed, combined away.
Does that mean that that day of the death part happen with clash and combine away or destruction?
Yes, correct. Okay, but then
on
here,
that day itself.
On that day itself, here, okay, let's say first of all, we have the luck pillar. Okay, not? We have the luck pillar.
Right.
And then we have the year, we have the month, and we have the day. Okay. So let's say this person's luck pillar. So if this person's luck pillar clash this away. All right. And then the year, this year is the year of the water tiger. So let's say water clash this away. And then, but okay, it doesn't clash this away lah. But let's just say lah. And then the month clashes this away. And then the day clashes that away. And then of course, then the luck pillar, the year, the month, the day, then all the visiting element coming in and then just destroy, clash, combine all the way. Okay. All right.
It has to be all four clash away or destroy away. What if only two?
That doesn't.
Must be all four.
All four, correct. All four. Not easy lah. No. That means not easy. It's like on off. It's like on off lah. Maybe the luck pillar clash this away. Maybe it clashes this away. But then when the month comes to clash this away, this one maybe the luck pillar change already. You know what I mean? No? The luck pillar change away already. And then of course, and then when the day comes and clash, then the month is over already. So on off lah. Yeah. Okay. But the one thing very powerful is the resource star. That is why, in a way, if you have resource, you live longer. People without resource and not rooted will then find themselves very vulnerable because the combinations comes more frequently. Same also with the, in a way, it's also with the hour as well, correct? With the hour. Because sometimes we do find that sometimes you need three to come into that part. That's why people are very kanchong when they cross over a luck pillar. So when they cross over a luck pillar, they get very nervous. Because
especially the sixth luck pillar.
Correct. Because the thing about it is that, you see, I can read this person's chart. I can read this person's chart. I can read this part. But if I do not know the luck pillar, because when we talk about layman, we talk about not ordinary people. Ordinary people wouldn't know luck pillar. Ordinary people, if they check your birth date, they can find this tree lah. They can find this tree lah. But of course, now with the software, you're able to plot the luck pillar better. Therefore, we need to know when the luck pillar is coming in. Okay, now let's say, for example, this person's case is a real chart that I'm looking at this person. So right now, the luck pillar is actually water horse lah. Water horse. In a way, horse and horse is self-punishment. That's also another one. Horse as horse, self-punishment. The water comes in to clash the fire away. They clash the fire away into one part. Therefore, that's it. And I said, what is a 7K? What is a 7K for Pink Fire Day Master? What is a 7 killing for 7 killing? Sharp into one part as it is. What is the 7 killing? I forgot it. The 7 killing is run water. Run water is the 7 killing for the start. 7 killing. Just like this one, the ghost month is also like kind of a 7 killing for the year, something like that. Right. So anyway, this person is being jailed. Right now, this person is being jailed. Something that has to do with self-punishment. So actually, I'm referring to the chart of this person that was recently in the Malaysian headlines. Her name is Brittany Griner. She is a woman National Basketball Association basketball player. So she was in Russia, and the custom officer saw that she has a vape cartridge, and the vape cartridge contains some hashish or cannabis, which she put on into a vape, and somehow that is against the law in Russia. Cannabis, I mean, it's similar to Malaysia and Singapore as well. And for that, she was sentenced to 9 years of jail. So she was sentenced to 9 years of jail for traveling through passport. So right now, this is a bit of an issue in America because, of the Russian-Ukraine conflict and America's role in it. And so this person was caught into the middle. But anyway, just to come back to the chart, that right now, she is a pink fire day master, which is not rooted. So when people are not rooted, the elements affect them more. And furthermore, she is weak. She's very weak because she is a pink fire born in the end of autumn. End of autumn, when winter is about to begin. Therefore, her pink fire chi is a trapped energy being unrooted. So far, we do not know what's the hour pillar that comes in. And so when the 7 killing comes, and that water affects both, on this part, that's quite a very big one as well. Alright, so anyway, 7 killing also represents jail, represents trouble with the law, in that sense, the kind of reading comes in as well. Alright, so more to that, to see that this may be also self-punishment. Self-punishment indicates that if this is a problem that you bring to yourself, a problem that you bring to yourself, and it happens on the year pillar, which is external. So it's an external pillar. That means it has to do with an environment, the trouble that comes in to be as well. Right. So anyway, this is just a little bit more about that kind of reading that we need to. Okay, so what happens when we find destruction in a person's natal chart? So destruction normally means, in a way, let's try to let's try to. I mean, not say try to lah. I'm sure we all know that we humans have an affinity, have a tendency to destruct ourselves. Do you know? I do not know whether you agree. Whether it is smoking, alcohol, gambling, one addiction or another addiction. And so, usually, destruction represents addiction. And right now, in Malaysia, our government is trying to introduce generational endgame against smoking. Right? Right, if you ask me, I have to agree that smoking is poison. So is drinking, drugs, or any other type of it. But even if you ban smoking or drinking, don't worry, we humans have the ability to fill it up with something else. Therefore, destructive tends to be in that kind of the addiction. And not just that, there are also certain mental or psychological state that we have as well. And the thing about destruction, unlike clash, just ask a question. What is the time frame for clash? Clash happens very fast one. Clash happens very fast. Normally, I would say the time frame can be something that runs unpredictable. That means like a car accident. I mean, when you drive a car and then somebody hits you, that is. But destruction is something that lingers on for a very long time. So if you ask me, I'm more afraid of destruction than I'm afraid of clashes. Because actually, clashes easier to cure. Destructions is harder to cure. It's harder to cure, especially when it is in a natal chart, because it represents the person's psychological inbuilt. Now, smokers know that smoking is bad. Alcoholics know that alcoholism is bad. They know. Therefore, educating them is, to a certain degree, pointless, useless. It's useless to tell a smoker that smoking is bad. It's useless to tell a gambler that gambling is bad, because they themselves know. They can agree to you. They can agree with you that it is bad. So how do you cure? How do you cure such destructive relationships? We can find. Of course, we can then look into the metaphysics definition of cure, and then of course try to find ways on how we can then do it this way as well. Okay, so try to see what happens when it's in a natal chart and what is also on it. Let's take a look into this here as well. Okay, now this is again a fictitious chart that can be drawn. Let's look into it. Can you see any destructive element here? You have your, so there's a tiger, destruction against tiger against your pig, and then this snake, and this as well. All right, and therefore here, these are destructions. Both of them are at a growth stage. Both of them are at a growth stage. Therefore, their destructive power is not too large, and sometimes they cannot be broken. But of course, the season comes to play, and the season is winter. This is the beginning of winter. Therefore, water will be strong. Water will be very big. And this person, of course, is Jiawut, which is also strong, and the person is rooted. The person is rooted. And therefore, with the person being rooted into the strands, then the destructive element will not be too strong, will not be too destructive to the part. But of course, you can also, but let's not indicate one thing. We have, remember, we have the tiger, the monkey, which is a clash, and the snake that comes in here. Therefore, this part forms the three punishment. The three punishment. Now, these three punishment indicates that these three elements are fighting for dominance. They're fighting to control. So the fire element, we have the metal element, and the wood element. All three trying to fight for supremacy in this sense. And this also creates a kind of a conflict. Okay, but now let's move further to this and let's see what do we mean? Because here when we have the monkey and the snake, the tiger and the pig, these two are also combination. They are also combination relationships. Therefore, one thing why the growth stage destruction is that the growth stage destruction comes with combination, because the monkey and the snake combine, the tiger and the pig also comes to combine together. So this means that they have situations or scenarios where things either start from good to bad or bad to good. Things are good to bad or bad to good. That comes into this part as well. Right. And so the reading for this part, on good to bad or bad to good, what it actually may denote is bad choices. And if it is in the natal chart, it is not easy to overcome. Because one thing, a combination relationship is where there is an attraction. There's an attraction. There is an element that wants to combine together. But at the meantime, this combination destroys each other. They destroy each other. Therefore, having this usually entail one thing, that when a person has this in their chart, when elements wants to combine and also wants to destroy each other, it actually means that this person should not be making decision. This person should not be making decision because the person's decision is wrong. That means will end up not succeeding. Therefore, if let's say we are talking about investment, then this person should not invest directly, because whatever stocks they choose, wrong one. They will buy cryptocurrency at the wrong time. Whatever they buy is all at the wrong time one, perpetually losing money. That means no success. That is the thing. The feeling of that's the ungratefulness part that comes in, to be punishment as well, because the person puts in energy that wants to come in, but then the person has it. So what is the cure in this sense? From a personality point of view, this person has a tendency of making the wrong choices in life, in terms of businesses, in terms of career, in terms of, well, basically everything. Especially here when the pair comes in to the point. Therefore, as a result, the person will either get conned, the person will be taken for a ride, or results in certain efforts that is just simply a failure. Right? So how do we cure a combination destructive relationship? The person will just need to accept that it is best for the person to seek a mentor, to seek a noble person, to be able to provide somebody who can give good advice for the betterment of the person in all the major life decision that this person should. Okay, and as soon as the person accepts it, then that will be the better one. Okay, so this will be the destruction at the growth stage that will come to play. All right, now let's take a look into the most potent of all, destruction at the peach blossom. This one is the killer. Here when we have the rat and rooster. The rat and rooster. I think this is only my suspicion. I don't have the facts ready. But I suspect that people who are rat and rooster have ADHD. Okay? People who have rat and rooster in their chart has some mental development, mental developmental issue that makes them antisocial. I'm not saying that, uh, and this antisocial behavior is not because they want to be antisocial, but because they have a certain element of ADHD that doesn't allow them to focus. And because they seems to be more aloof, they don't have many friends and they tend to be ostracized. Okay? And because of the social ostracism, they tend to fall into serious depression. And so they tend to rely on addiction. And as we know, rooster is also the alcoholic peach blossom, and red, of course, water is related with some sexual misconduct. Therefore, the red rooster destruction of all the six destructive elements, red rooster is the most potent destruction force of all, especially when the water element is very strong. So therefore, water rooster comes to play. Because rooster, as you know, is metal, and metal produces water. So when these two come side by side, they are usually very strong. So this means that they can be addicted to alcohol, abuse. They can feel very, very inferior about themselves. And so when dealing with people with red and rooster in their chart, you're dealing with somebody who is very a sense of very inferior in their mind. They need all the encouragement and they're very sensitive to negative words. Therefore, if people are harsh with them, rude and bully them, they will tend to resort to being very depressed, okay, very suicidal tendency. So this kind of destruction can end up as suicide. People tend to commit suicide because they feel that they cannot be accepted in society, that they are being outcast because of that. And sometimes I feel that it is not their choice in life, it's just that they are born with certain uh, hormonal imbalance in them that created this kind of a sense as well. So red rooster, I personally have seen a few of these red rooster combination, and even for children, so therefore they are quite very sensitive and they do have ADHD. So I begin to find it as well. And what have I discussed is natal chart. So natal chart means character, personality. But now if it is visiting, it will also have certain temporary part as well. Okay. So anyway, peach blossom. Now you know. So now when I talk about growth stage, I talk about career, I talk about making important decisions in life. But now when I talk about peach blossom, I talk about personal relationships, naturally. So we're talking about personal relationship. And now the horse and rabbit will also have something to do with personal relationship. It has also to do with a breach of trust, a kind of a breach of trust that comes into place as well. And again, this kind of relationship will be sexual in nature. Destruction that comes with a clash will also have this kind of a similar issue that we can find as well. Now, destructions and clashes. Once, let's take a look into this part. On this particular chart, we can find that this lady has all the four peach blossoms. All the four peach blossoms. When it comes to peach blossom, ideal, only one. Only one. Ideally, only one. We don't want to see more than one. The moment you see 2, 3, 4, it's not good already. And this one, she has all four of them, which is actually going to spell tremendously a lot of personal problems in her life. And moreover, one more thing, the rat, no, the rooster. Now, and the rooster and the rabbit. Now, in the symbolism of Pachi, the rabbit represents, okay, if you look into the Chinese character for rabbit, it is of all the 12 animals, that's the closest thing to a male sexual organ, which of course the rabbit is a representation of that male sexual organ. Maybe that's why even Playboy has rabbit has the logo. Right. And the sin metal represents the female sexual organ. And the sin metal represents that. Anyway, sin metal is also shiny, feminine, and attraction. And usually, when we have the rabbit and the rooster clash, when it actually represents, okay, it actually represents rape. So therefore, that's a symbolism for.
Wait, can you mute Wiki?
Therefore, rooster lady do not want to see rabbit in the way, because that represents the kind of a risk that a person would, and therefore you're raped by the colleagues in the office, colleagues that comes into place, into this part as well. So therefore we have the, so and furthermore we have the Wumao. This will be the destruction. Denotes that the family, and because as we know, the year is due to family. So therefore, there is family is not a happy one. Then, of course, we have the rat and the rooster, which will then have problems with the children. So, destructive represents abortion, miscarriages, and also end up with quite a very difficult life with the children has. All right. So, all in all, as we know, peach blossom makes the person attractive, and of course, being attractive has its danger and risk. And therefore, this lady having 4 peach blossom stars, even though she may be attractive, she may be pretty, but then her life is basically wrought with a lot of all these relationship and personal problems that she normally has to face in her life. All right. Therefore, this is the case study that just as the one that was given by Datuk Joy Yabas. Okay, so all in all, this would be as we look into the clash and destruction. Now, the one thing, let me just run through to be back. One thing about as we come into the graveyard, graveyard usually results in, graveyard normally results in, when we look into the part, as we know, clashes tends to results in, moving houses or changing jobs, and therefore it tends to release certain new elements altogether. But normally graveyard is considered to be hidden. It's a kind of hidden destructive force itself that one can also consider. That means when you have, let's say for example, looking into what is hidden inside the element of the dog and also on the good itself that we have. Right. Okay, so let me just let me just share. So I'm just going to if we were to just take a look into this part here. Okay, so here we can see that there is a dog. There is a dog, and the dog has a destruction against the goat. Right? Actually, it's a very, oh, I see, sorry. It's too late already. I thought I can hold on. Huh? Okay, sorry. All right, is that better? Okay, so when we look in, okay, let's keep it simple. If you see more than one peach blossom, problem. One different type, a different type. If you see more than one graveyard, also problem. Either clash, punish, or destruction. Because as we know, the graveyard, in a way, the graveyard forms, as you know, the graveyard is, if opposite each other is clash, side by side each other is either punishment or is destruction. Therefore, that's just about it. Therefore, here as you can see, this kind of clash represents that we can see that there's a thing fire. There's a thing fire clashing into there's a thing fire clashing into it, and there is also in a way the U clashing into it. Okay, so therefore the sin metal wants to cut to the wood, and of course the thing fire wants to clash into that, into the element as well. And of course the dog itself has that conflicting part into it as well. And therefore what beneath it represents into this kind of an internal conflict that may surface as well. But to read, when you want to read a graveyard clash, usually it is hidden because and graveyard normally is very slow. Therefore, the problems are normally lingering. It normally lingers around. And therefore, for further reading to that, we normally will then turn to the 10 gods. We'll turn to the 10 gods, and then we'll then try to read and to see what the 10 gods actually would represent in these particular kinds of destructive force. So therefore, the 10 gods will be more important for the reading for the destruction when it comes to the graveyard. Yeah, so that would be how we look into the destruction for the Pachi, and then of course broken into these three groups that we actually would have. Right, so that wraps up on the sharing for today on how do we read destruction and how do we appreciate this part here as well. These are all the for the grave. No, basically all earthly branches are hidden stems lah. But normally for graveyard, it's considered to be something that is slower to. It is normally slower to be seen, and it is only released when there is a clash. There's a release when there's a clash, and so let's just consider that it's something similar to an earthquake. So there's a lot of rumbling in the ground. Because here we find that the dog will clash with the dragon. There's a clashing effect. That the water will then clash with the fire as well. So that's why it creates a lot of bullying punishment. So we'll find that there's a lot of internal clashes. And normally when we read this chart, that's why sometimes changing jobs. Why are the jobs changing? Because the person lost a job due to internal politics or due to very heavy dissatisfaction in the office. Things like that. Okay, all right. So this wraps up on our sharing for today. And remember, tomorrow is a tiger, monkey, and snake day. So if anybody wants to drive out, don't go too far and be more on the lookout. Stay extra alert. Hopefully, the day will pass with no major events, and for anyone out there as well. Okay, people. So I think that will be a wrap up for today. So I'll see you next week. Let me know if there's any other things that you want for me to share as well. Yeah. Okay. All right. Good night.